I'd love to switch gears and talk about software systems, which is a big part of RevOps and something near and dear to my heart as I'm building stuff in RevOps land. So I'm curious for your take on a lot of different things. And so we'll go through a bunch of different questions here. I think the first interesting one is the CRM still the center of your RevOps tech stack, or is it a data warehouse? Like, where's the system of record these days?
Have you been stalking me?
I did my research.
You really set me up with this one. No, it's not. So when I started my career, we definitely would go into meetings and we would get in a whiteboard and we would draw one big circle in the middle and we would write Salesforce in it, right? And one view of the customer. I think that was always like Salesforce's tagline, right? It's like one view of the customer. Now it's the AI CRM. So we've got like one view of the customer right in the middle, and then we would integrate the tools with Salesforce so that if I needed usage information for my marketing campaign, I needed product to push that into Salesforce. So I would have my, last login date or feature XYZ activated date. And then that would flow into my marketing automation and we would use it there. If I needed to do any kind of like big reporting, I would do it out of Salesforce. Then you had tools on top of that, that kind of changed. But I would say in the last couple of years, and I think we're early on this, right? So if anybody listening is going, oh, I haven't done this yet, just know it's should be on your radar for the next couple of years. But Snowflake is the winner here. But Snowflake is now that data warehouse that's in the center. And the idea is that we're using reverse ETL tools and other integration tools to move data from the warehouse to the places that it needs to be. And we don't need every piece of data in every single tool. We should just be pushing the ones that are relevant into each tool, because at the end of the day, Salesforce is not a very good data warehouse and a very expensive one. So let's, take that away, put it in a place that makes the most sense so that we can have one data warehouse that has marketing interactions, CS interactions, product interactions, intent data, whatever else. That's where we're doing all of that sort of insights and reporting.
And when's the right time for a company to start investing in a data warehouse? Like, transparently, we haven't done this yet at Doc, and it's something I've been feeling and thinking about. And so, like, how do you sort of think about that decision? And even you mentioned Snowflake. It's overwhelming. There's so many tools and we have a product database, but like, how should a startup think through this?
Sure. I think that's ever changing. If you would have asked me a year or two ago, I'd be like, nah, you guys are too small. Don't worry about it. Like, it's for the big shots. And that's because it was hard, right? It was hard to implement and it was hard to manage and you needed to hire people. But there's tools, like Fivetran and Census and High Touch, and they're like, you can do it, right? You can go in there and you're not writing queries anymore that you had to do like a few years ago. You're going in and it's all like click and configure and you can do this. So skill set wise, anybody can do it. It is a cost, to manage it. And unless you're going to do anything interesting with it, it's like, why would you do it? Well, because you want to, sync your product data with your marketing automation, do really interesting campaigns, and you want to be able to do analytics on your opportunities based on usage and automate your CS workflows. But if you're not planning on doing any of that, you're probably too early, and just keep yourself focused. I think as an early business, that's the problem, is it's too many projects and too much distraction. So at the moment where you're trying to do that interesting stuff, that's when you should have that discussion. But you have the capability now.
And then when it comes to the CRM, so I think we both came up in a world where Salesforce was like the only answer, right? At Lattice, it would have been crazy to choose anything else, and HubSpot didn't work. But like at Doc now, I'm using HubSpot and it's been great, and it's out of the box and it's nice. And so I'm curious how you think about that puzzle. Is it just like HubSpot works for down market SMB and at some point you grow out of it? And then, or is there certain companies you just need to use Salesforce right away? Like, how should companies sort of think through that decision?
Yeah. So, great question. Here's what I would, I keep doing the same pattern. So I'm sorry. I'm like, I feel old now because I keep being like what it used to be, but I guess that's where I am in my career. I would have answered that question very quickly a few years back and say, you got to choose Salesforce. Might as well choose it early so you don't have to re-implement and just go. But HubSpot has done things like upgraded integrations, having custom objects, and ability to manage a lot more records. They now have marketing and sales and service and commerce. And so they are becoming this tool that allows you to do your work really quickly without a lot of customization and basically focus on, doing the work. Where they start to fail is anything super complicated. So yeah, they're not really winning enterprise, right? They're doing really well in SMB and they're coming up on mid-market. Mid-market's staying on HubSpot longer. We are still doing migrations from HubSpot to Salesforce, but they're much later down the path. And, one of the main reasons, for example, is there's a limit and number, and don't quote me on the numbers, but there's a limit on the number of custom objects that you can have. And there's a limit in the number of records that you can have, within those custom objects. And there's not as much things that you can customize the UI, for example, or automate, certain types of records or certain types of quotes. But for example, here's a good example of why they're moving up market. Are you familiar with the company Deal Hub?
Yep.
So Deal Hub is, CPQ competitor. They integrate with HubSpot. So all of a sudden now HubSpot can do more complex pricing and quoting that it couldn't do a few years ago. So it's getting better. Now, it's not as easy to integrate, for example, product usage into Salesforce to automatically update your opportunities to be accurate. I don't know, stuff like that.
Yeah, the Deal Hub example is near and dear to my heart because we've been building similar stuff that's competitive with them at Doc. Cool. And I think and we built into HubSpot line items and all of that stuff. And right. I think one observation I had was HubSpot natively can't really do like tiered and volume-based pricing. But we could do it. And so it's like this funny way to like reverse engineer. All right, how do we fit that in their model and stuff? And I assume like eventually they build some of that stuff, but I found they do a good job of like getting V1 products that help a lot of things. But then, as you said, some of that advanced functionality, I assume they will build it, or maybe the ecosystem will build it like Doc. I don't know. It'll be interesting.
I don't know. I think it will be more of an like if we take Salesforce as an example, they're not even very good at pricing either. Like, they let the ecosystem do the innovation on top and they just stayed really flexible. It's interesting. I didn't really think of Doc and Deal Hub as like strict competitors. I'm sorry.
No, it's totally fine. No, I look up to them. Okay.
I named them as like one of the reasons why I think HubSpot was able to move up market. Like it's there without it. A lot of people would have self-selected out.
Yeah. So actually let's stay on CPQ and stuff for a second. Like, how do you think, when should a company invest in a proper CPQ system? And then how do you see this order form process evolve as companies scale? Yeah.
So this is another one where, all right, once Salesforce bought SteelBrick, that's CPQ, and they're an incredible machine, right? They're an incredible marketing machine as they're going down market. And so we're seeing younger and younger companies adopting something like a CPQ. And, it is a very complicated implementation. And you really have to be so good at your pricing and packaging and understand it thoroughly to the point where we actually we tried to do a CPQ implementation at Lattice. And I will say that was one of the hardest projects for Go Nimbly and probably one of our bigger failures. And everybody at Lattice knows that. Hopefully we cleaned it up and we did our best and we learned from it. And since then we've invested a ton in it because we had to. Because all these companies were, adopting it earlier and earlier, and our customers have it. And so we've had to really amp that up. But I'd say the real change too is that you've got, companies that are competing in that space and that it's no longer just CPQ, right? These cycles are becoming more competitive where we are seeing other vendors come through that are more focused on SaaS. You have to remember SteelBrick wasn't built for SaaS. It was it has like manufacturing terms in it.
My observation as I've been staring at so many order forms over the past year and trying to figure out Salesforce and stuff is that, I don't know, companies are so unwilling to like bend their pricing model to the software. And so you have to like configure yourself. You have to have so many toggles and so many little options to solve for so many different edge cases. That's one set of problems. And then the other, actually, no, it's escaping now. But that is like the one set of problems that I've noticed a lot. Yeah.
But should they? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like, maybe not.
Should they bend their rules to what the software can do? I think the harder part is less that they're not willing to bend, but they're not willing to decide what their pricing model is, right? They want to customize. So it's like, well, I have an enterprise deal and they want us to do a percentage of price for the implementation fee. And it's like, okay, cool, but we didn't do that. So like, I don't want to create a new process for you to have that now. And so all of a sudden you have these teams that have blown up and have like 18 different pricing models. Partners have something different than, portfolio companies have something different. And that makes it very difficult to manage.